episode of Polite as Fuck.
Polite as fuck. Okay.
Polite as fuck, bitches. Fuckers.
Yeah, we
I
still
like
don't
it.
really have a name.
That's okay.
But I think fuckers is honestly what it's
Looking like it's
looking
going to
like it's going to be. Happy belated. How was your birthday week?
be. It was so good. I had such a good weekend and week.
You took 3 days off of work?
I wish I could do that every day. It did, like, the day after my birthday on Wednesday, I was very much like, do. What do I
Yeah.
do now? Well, I guess I'll paint and go for a walk and go to the beach and do the... So it was nice, but I was also like, I need schedule.
Yeah, I feel that. A random video just came to mind that I was watching the other day that was like, at what point does it become, like, at what age is it like that you're not going to have kids? Because people, when they have kids, talk about like their ideal day is basically when they don't have their kids and they go to the beach and they go to the coffee shop and they do all these things. And this guy was like, I literally do that 3 days a week. Like, and I don't have kids, so why would I have them
Yeah.
when I have my ideal day?
I already have my...
Often.
I know. Every single day.
And I thought that was very true. No shade to kids, just...
I had 3 days without kids and it was glorious. And then
Yeah.
I went back. I woke up on Thursday and I was like, I'm not going to let anything stress me out. It's not even that. I'm just like, whatever comes. And I will deal with it with like strength and kindness and approach everything, whatever, like deal with it as it comes and not get upset and leave everything at work. And then I walked into I literally was just like, it's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. And I opened the door to the office and the entire office was rearranged. Everything. I was just like, it's okay.
Do you like the rearrange? Because you like rearranging your room.
I do.
Is it more
It's
though because
fine
you didn't get to?
because I didn't do
be
it? Maybe. And also it's just like, there's so many other things that we could be doing to better, like rearranging. I was just kind of like, I walked in and I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, I also
Do you
you
hear
hear
that? That's scary.
speaking of child, there's literally a child like singing.
Cry-
Well, I don't know. Sounds the same.
Sounds a little scary. It sounds like a horror movie.
It does. Are all the doors locked?
Honestly, I don't know. There have been times where I've walked out in the morning to go to gym and the door's not locked.
Stop.
And I'm like, well, glad we're
Someone
alive.
forgot about that. Oh
Sorry,
my
anyway,
God.
you're saying there's so many other things we could be doing.
Yeah, that and just like, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm just a control freak. It honestly didn't bother me. It was more of the fact that like it's just another thing that wasn't communicated.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, it is what it is. And then Thursday was such a fine day. I was like, okay, like I did what I said I was going to do, take everything as it comes. And then Friday came along and just swept me under my feet. And not
It
in a
was
good
like,
way.
oh, you're going to take everything?
Yeah.
Here you go.
Oh, you're going to be okay with everything and try to be strong and deal everything with kindness? Haha, fuck you.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm glad it was only a 2-day work week, though.
I know. And then I
That's
was like,
nice.
I need to not work this weekend. I think, yeah, it's a
Sometimes
good
you
choice.
just need a reset,
Yeah.
honestly. Like, you just need some time, and that's okay.
And honestly, it's the only time that I can do things that aren't like work related, like the podcast and figuring out insurance and all of these things that need to get done. Plus like personal time to like do like personal growth stuff.
Yeah. I will say, like, anytime I try and do, not to deter you, anytime I try and do like insurance stuff or like scheduling appointments, nothing's open on the weekend.
No.
So you have to like basically figure out which doctors you want to call. Then you call them on the weekday. And then it's just, yeah.
It's super fun.
Yeah. Love it. Love that.
It's more so like I haven't even set up my like account yet. I don't think I've like logged in and created a password or anything.
That's
So
a
I'm
good
like,
place
I
to
should probably
start.
do that with all of the things. But yeah, that was my week. How was your week?
It was fine. It was
Yeah.
good. I don't really have anything crazy to add. I just been vibing. Just
Bobbing, doing your thing. It's definitely
Doing my
that time of the
thing.
year where it's just like nothing too crazy is going on. Everybody's just kind of putting their head down and doing what needs to get done.
Yeah. I mean, we had the gala, which was fun.
That was so much fun.
the Gals Gala. And it's when this comes out, it'll be the day after Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to do a segment Welcome to My Brain segment on our thoughts on Valentine's Day.
So you asked me if I had any like
opinions,
like strong opinions. And I don't have like a super strong opinion. I just think like this is kind of outside of Valentine's Day and more so of like American culture. But it really bothers me that all of the Valentine's Day stuff was put out right after Christmas. And now there's like no Valentine's Day anything. It's all Easter when you go to the store.
Really?
And I'm like, why? Like, why are we in a rush to get over to like the next holiday? And also like Valentine's Day isn't even like, I don't like chocolate. I do like flowers, but I don't like chocolate. I think the idea, it's someone, I was listening to something, I can't remember what it was, but someone had said Valentine's Day, like the day has the most, like highest amount of people go out to eat on Valentine's Day. And it's like, I get it, but I'm like, if Valentine's Day is a holiday, why do we want to, I go out to eat all the time. Like, I don't want to do what I always do.
Yeah, like stay in, make a nice dinner or something. Yeah.
I feel like the common thing to say is like, treat every day like Valentine's Day. Like, why are you choosing a special day to like be like nice and loved and yada, yada, yada. But at the same time, I'm also like, when I've had partners, it's nice to like celebrate your love on a day that isn't like your anniversary.
Yeah.
So I like that. I think guys, if you're in like a girl-guy relationship, the guys get the brunt end of the stick on Valentine's Day. They have to like spend all this money and shower the girl, and the girl's like, dee, 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 dee. Like, I like to do stuff for them too. I want it to be like a, like a, whatever that
mutual.
is. Yeah, mutual.
What is that word in science where it's like both organisms benefit?
I don't know. The one thing from science that I know is mitochondria. That is the only thing I know that I remember. It's the powerhouse of the... I can't. I swear to God. It's the only thing I remember.
The powerhouse.
And that's all I remember. So I don't know. That or like osmosis. That's it.
Did you watch Osmosis Jones?
No. What?
The blue guy?
The
They like
blue
went
guy?
in the cells or something?
Sounds like a dream.
Honestly, science is so hard for me. I don't know why, just like didn't click in my brain. It's like really cool to learn about, but like for me to remember and regurgitate, no.
Well, you see, I feel the opposite. I loved science, but now I'm like, you just asked me about 3 things that I have no idea about, so I must have not liked it that much if I can't even remember it.
Anyway.
But what are your thoughts on Valentine's Day?
I feel like when I was in high school, I thought of it as the day for like celebrating your like romantic relationship. I think as I've gotten older, I realize like I think it's a cute holiday. I love love, and I love like an excuse to celebrate that. I think they're like cute little crafts and hearts, and the colors are cute and everything, but I've come to appreciate the love that I have outside of just like a romantic relationship. And like with the Gals Gala that we've had for the last 3 years, like that's such a fun way to celebrate like my friends, especially particularly like my girlfriends and those strong friendships that I have. And I think that's a fun excuse. And I know people like can become like the Grinch about like people spend so much money. Why do you need to spend money? And and you can say that about any holiday.
No, that's true.
So it's like this one's cute. Like it's literally for love.
It is. It is that's another thing. I feel like when I was younger and I wasn't with anybody, I was like that attitude of like, oh my God, fuck it, blah, blah, blah. But like when it's this time of year, even like around that time, like you're just walking around seeing people, like whether it's friends or partners, and there is just like an energy of love all around. So it's cute.
Yeah. I was listening to Jay Shetty on the Girls Gotta Eat podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Did you listen to that one?
I haven't listened to it yet.
It's really good. But he basically was talking about like, why do we put like in all the different forms of love, why is romantic love at like for some reason the highest?
Yeah, that's
in
interesting.
like a pyramid, when it's like he compared something about like single mothers who just love their children so much, but like for some reason that love in our mind doesn't have as much value as like the love between heterosexual relationship of like between a man and woman. Like for some reason that love is worth more.
Yeah.
But why? Like
That's
it's just,
so interesting.
Yeah.
Or even like friendship love, or like the love that you share with like your family, like parents or guardians, and sibling love.
He was talking about his wife and how his wife like loves, he was like, she probably loves her grandma more than she loves me, and I'm okay with that. And it's like a relationship that makes her so happy and like all this stuff. And it's just like, yeah, why is it that
so
we've
interesting.
made that like worth more in our minds?
I think there's a big, deeper answer to that question. That is not something we'll go into today, but that is really interesting to think about.
So love, Valentine's Day.
Yeah, and welcome to our brains. That's what we think about. Valentine's Day. Do you have any plans for Valentine's Day?
What do I have on Tuesday? Usually we do podcast planning on Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I don't think so. I have been, for anyone who's interested in this, I've been starting a dating
This is hilarious.
I've gone on 3 dates so far this year, and none of them are turning into second dates, but I'm keeping like a note of like the date and some information about them, what we did, and then my biggest ick. Because unless someone like knocks my socks off and we have a great time, like it's going to be an ick, because that's why I don't want to see them again. But
at the end of this year for the podcast, you should put together a PowerPoint presentation listing all of your dates and like ranking them and all that stuff.
Them.
Yeah. And sharing your icks.
Well, we'll see if I can get to another date.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's only February, but I'm not going on a date on Valentine's Day. It's honestly at this point, it's just entertaining.
Yeah.
To me.
I cannot. I literally like.
The one I was most excited for was like the biggest. Oof. He was older. He's 30.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh, he's going to be so mature.
That's cute.
Nope. He had a lot of issues. We all do, but like, wow, don't go on a date with that man. Is my thought.
On that note, for those that went on a date for Valentine's Day, I hope you guys had a blast.
Yeah,
it was good, and you were with someone that wasn't fucking crazy.
Yeah. Or you're with your friends or something.
Yeah. Enjoying your day.
Enjoy your day.
Feeling the love all around.
Transitioning from love to traveling. We wanted to do an episode. I feel like we've been having the travel bug and like wanting to get out of the country and do something that's fun and adventurous. But Ellie and I both lived abroad, which I feel like is a unique thing. Like it wasn't like a study abroad. It was like we literally moved to a country and lived there. And so we thought it'd be fun to do like a do's and don'ts of living abroad and kind of comparing how that is versus just like traveling, like general traveling, and our recommendations and some experiences we had and maybe what we do differently, or I don't know. Does that summarize it?
No, I think that's perfect. I do think that our advice is going to be so much better than the ones like if you Google like what to do, what not to do when it comes to like living abroad. I was just looking at them, and a lot of like, unless you go to like people's blogs, a lot of just like the Google search engine comes up with these things that are like, be safe, don't be afraid, don't walk alone, don't do this. And I'm like, I think you might be able to speak more to this because you were by yourself and I wasn't, but there was rarely a time where I felt that my own like intuition, like I am a pretty smart person and won't place myself in positions where I feel like I'm going to be afraid or threatened or scary. Side note, that doesn't mean like just because you're aware bad things can't happen, but I am saying that because I think sometimes like the fear of traveling stops people from doing that. So I'll just start by saying like the first do is just do it. Like just go. If you're having that idea, just go. have other things, like there are other things that we'll talk about. But when I was Googling, I was like, wow, this is real. If I didn't know any better, I would not want to go traveling because it just sounds so scary. I'm like, if
Yeah.
you just have the right things in place and you're careful and you're aware of your surroundings, like there's no reason to be like afraid of travel. It's ridiculous. So I just thought that was really interesting, like reading that. It was like, don't walk alone, carry a flashlight and all of these things. I'm like, I guess that like those are good tips, but I was like, I didn't include any of that in my notes. I was like,
it's
just
like
be
good to be
smart.
aware, but like
Why is it
everywhere.
your only advice? Yeah, everywhere. Why
Like-
is that like the only travel? Yeah, because America's so fucking safe. Like, okay.
No, seriously. I think that especially with the news, like paints other countries out to be like horrible or like super scary places. And it's like, shit, like that's happening here too. So
Exactly.
why is it that we can travel all around here and in other countries for some reason like so much worse or dangerous? Yeah, I agree. It's a good way to start it out.
But I wanted to start off by asking you and sharing where it is you've traveled so far.
Yeah. I had never been outside the country until I went to do we count Canada?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Of course we count Canada.
Well, sometimes it's like people are like, oh, that's like the States. It doesn't count. But anyway, I graduated college and went to Canada. I went to Montreal, which was really cool because they speak French there. It was a different cultural experience, and I really loved it. And was only there for, I want to say, like 2 days, but had a blast. I had loved like traveling all over the States. I'd like driven across the country. I'd been to a bunch of national parks. Like over my spring breaks, I did stuff like that in college, and so I knew that I wanted to go like to Latin America. I've wanted to go there since I did a presentation in 3rd grade on Costa Rica, and I picked Costa Rica because I was like, I want to go there someday. And I just fell in love with like Latin culture and just like the beauty that is Latin America. And so that had always been in my mind. Anyway, when I, after I graduated, I got my certification to teach English because I knew I didn't have any money. I was a broke college student, and I knew I wanted to like be able to do things. So I needed money to do that. So anyway, I didn't realize though that I was 21 when I moved to Peru.
That's crazy. You had your 22nd birthday there.
Yeah. Like to me, it feels like that was like so recently.
I know.
But I was 21. I was a baby. Which is wild. Anyway, lived in Peru for 6 months, and then I just kind of like bopped around, like heading north through Ecuador, Colombia, Guatemala, and Mexico, and did that for almost like a year backpacking. And then this past year, I went to Europe and did a few countries there: France, Italy, Germany, Switzerland, Netherlands. Is that where Amsterdam is? Yeah, Ireland. That was the other one.
So you've been around.
I bopped around. I've
That's
seen some
awesome.
places. Yeah.
That's really great. I love that.
I'm glad I've been able to do that. I feel like a lot of people like do Europe or cool trips like that when they're a kid and maybe don't appreciate or like really understand what they're doing. So I'm kind of glad that I've been able to do that now that I'm older, because I feel like I have a respect and like interest in learning more about the countries themselves and the cultures, and I've enjoyed it.
I totally agree with that. I think for me, my first time out of the country was it was Christmas of my senior year, and I went to England. Of college, yeah. And then the summer when I graduated, I ended up like living in Manchester for a few weeks, like 3 or 4 weeks. And then I did a trip to Amsterdam, and then went back to England, and then flew and lived in Australia for 2 years. So, but I do think like it wasn't until I was in Australia that I was like more appreciative. And I think like if I had had the mentality that I do now in England and in Amsterdam, I would have maybe been a little bit more appreciative. I feel like because it was my first time out of the country and I was so young, I wasn't 21, I think I was 22. But, being able to explore a little bit more or just having like more of a awareness of it because like looking back I'm just you're just a little bit immature. I don't like regret it. I loved my time in all of those places, but it is like traveling at this age right now is so because you're still young enough to do all the fun stuff, but you have more of that appreciation for the culture and wanting to see more things and kind of just being a little bit more smart about the choices that you make.
Yeah. No, it's true. I think about that like when retired people are on trips and like if you're in really good shape, that's awesome. But like a lot of the things that I did or want to do are like very active. And it's a bummer that people wait until they're old to go to these places. And then it's like you maybe aren't enjoying this really cool trek or like doing these things because you're old. And it's a lot harder, unfortunately.
That is very true. But I liked my little travel abroad. Sometimes I'm like, wow, I can't believe that happened. It does. Some days it feels like it was yesterday, but other days I'm like, it feels like a lifetime. Like I'm like, that was a whole other life.
Yeah.
Which was.
It was. Do you want to kick us off with your first do and don't do or whatever?
So my first one kind of goes hand in hand. My first do is plan your logistics. And I'm saying like your logistics because I was my whole travel all through England, Amsterdam, Australia. I was with someone. So I think it's really important to be very like aware of what you're wanting out of your trip and planning what is important to you. And then my don't that goes hand in hand in that is don't assume others will plan it for you. So obviously if you're going by yourself, you're going to want to plan your logistics. But if you're going with other people, plan what you are interested in. But I also think logistical wise is like if you're going to go live somewhere, making sure that you're looking at like where you want to live, plan out these little things that takes like 2 seconds just to make sure that you're secure whenever you get there. And don't assume that everything's going to like fall into place when you get there because sometimes that's not exactly how that happens.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of like personality types of people who have to plan like everything down to every hour of the day.
Yeah.
And then there are people who are like, we'll just figure it out when we get there. But I do think there needs to be an in between. Like when you have literally no idea what to do in that area or like what's good, what's not, what do people recommend? Like if you haven't done any research, then I feel like when you get there, you're either one, spending so much time researching when you're there, when you could be enjoying things, or two, you like are just figuring it out and maybe... Yeah, it all worked out how it was meant to, but like maybe you could have had a better living situation or like, I don't know.
Yeah. I think like for me, when I had left England to go to Australia, I booked a Airbnb for like a week or 2 weeks or something like that in order to give myself the time to find the apartment, find the job, make sure I have like my money is transferred over properly, my visa is intact. I can get like, that's another thing with like logistics is it's kind of different if you're traveling, but when you're living abroad, figuring out like your phone and your Wi-Fi, because sometimes like Wi-Fi isn't available. It's not an always thing. So for me in Australia, they had this like SIM card that I just put in it was my new thing. And so I had to get that all figured out. And it's like these little things that really took only 2 seconds to search up that were just made my life so easy. And there was that, phone store right across from the Airbnb. So all of these things were able to get done. And it made the trip so much better especially at the beginning because all of the boxes were checked really quickly and then I was able to go explore and do the things that I wanted to do. So like logistic wise, there are things that need to get done, especially if you're living there, making sure like money's in order, your bank account works and phone works and all of these things. And it really only takes a second. So if you could just plan that out, even if you're not a planner, it makes your trip more enjoyable.
Yeah. I didn't have cell service the entire time that I.
How did you survive your trip? I just like
There are times. No, there are literal times when I was like thinking it to myself, like, if I turn off airplane mode, will my phone work? Like, will I have like, because I still technically had my like American SIM in there
with money.
But yeah, so much money. I was asking for Wi-Fi everywhere. It made it so like I really had to like I downloaded maps and I would really have to like navigate my way. But there are other times when I'm just like, this is like, it would be so much better if I knew, or at least like knew that if something happened, I could call someone. Because I would do some sketchy shit that I was like, if I like die, I don't know.
Yeah.
No one's gonna know where I am.
That's nice to think about. Thanks for that.
Well, I'm just adding to your point of, yeah, take the 2 seconds to figure out your phone. And yeah, there's mostly there's a lot Wi-Fi in a lot of places, but like we have technology now. It's nice. You can use it.
Yeah. But not everywhere has a lot of those things. So if you're going to somewhere that you're not very familiar, you don't speak the language. I'm very thankful. Almost all of the places I went to were English speaking countries. But being able to be aware so that if you don't have Wi-Fi, at least knowing where the nearest ones are, or if you know that you're not going to have Wi-Fi, just buy a map. Like, it's just like if your map on your phone isn't going to work. Yeah, if you know how to read a map, which I would hope everybody does. But yeah, that was my first one.
I like that. I also brought one other thing to this point. I bought that like, what is it, Lonely Planet? That company. I had brought a travel book for Peru.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like those are great books.
So helpful.
Some of the information in there are like maybe outdated when you get there. Like some of the restaurants I found like weren't open anymore, or hotels or something. But like even just having that so that if your phone doesn't work, or like if you need a last minute thing or whatever, like, and it's also, they have like the ratings and they have the tips and it's like very vetted.
Mm-hmm.
Those books are really awesome. And a lot of hotels or hostels will have those. I've seen them. So that's another cool tidbit.
Love it.
Okay, is it my turn?
It sure is.
I'm going to start with a don't.
Okay.
Don't go live in another country, travel to another country with a wishy-washy relationship.
Well, we're starting off we're just diving right into it, aren't we? Okay.
Because I feel like people, this is people being me, think that like doing some grand thing like traveling or moving or something is this is me, Ellie, I'm talking about me.
Okay.
Is going to like help them figure it out, or like maybe that will be the thing that like makes the other person want this relationship or whatever. Like I wish that I would have clearly, definitively broken off my relationship before I left. Like it ended while I was traveling, and then I'm dealing with that while I'm traveling, and I should be enjoying the country and like figuring it out. And sure, maybe if I would have ended it right before, I would have like still been sad or like trying to navigate those emotions, but at least it would be my own journey instead of me like trying to work something out with him. And it was just like, not that I regret anything, but if I were to do it again, I feel like that clean break would have made it a lot easier for me because I would have been more present with myself in the moment then, which is like how I was later on after it was over. But the first few months, there was just always that like extra thing there.
Yeah.
Which is like, clearly that relationship wasn't working. I knew that. So why didn't I end it?
Yeah.
But it also like comparing this to Europe, when I was in Europe for 6 weeks, like that I went with a friend and that friendship wasn't really strong either. So it was another like unstable relationship that I decided to go to another country with this person. And I don't know if I thought that like somehow we'd really get along when we're in stressful travel situations. I don't know what I was thinking, but it's like, that's just not, it's like when people say to have a kid.
Yeah.
to like fix a relationship or something.
Yeah.
That's not it.
Putting a Band-Aid over a broken leg. It's not going to work.
Yeah. Wow. I like that. So anyway, that's a little tidbit. I think that you'll enjoy your time, even though it might seem difficult. Any breakup, any like uncertainty like that is hard, but it's going to be a lot more difficult when you're trying to figure out a new place, a new culture, a new everything, and you have that added uncertainty.
I was going to put in there, don't travel with a partner, but I decided not to for a few different reasons. I think when you're young and you're in love, like you're going to want to do everything to be with the person. The person that I was with wasn't even from the States. So the whole point was to like finally have this like normal relationship in a like place that was new to both of us. And so that idea was really good. And also, even though it was like a lot of things were going on, you learn so much about the person, whether it's positive or negative or a mixture of the both. And eventually, like, you will come up with your own answer, and like, you will come up with some sort of growth and being able to learn from every opportunity. And I think when you're young, you're going to do whatever you want. So I wouldn't necessarily say like, don't travel with people or don't travel with a partner or like not a good person, like your trip into Europe. Like, I just think, yeah, if you could go back, but you can't. And that made you learn so many things about what you're going to do in the future. And also now you know also what kind of friendships you're looking for. And I think this is kind of a longer tangent, but like if I didn't do that with that person, I would be still interested in relationships that aren't good for me. And I've like, ever since then, I'm like, I loved that person. I loved that trip. I learned so much. I think they learned so much about what was good, what was bad, blah, blah, blah. But now I'm like, because of that, I know exactly what I want and I won't settle for anything less.
That's true.
So, I mean, do what you want, but just take everything as an opportunity to learn, especially when it comes to travel, because like you change when you travel. Everybody changes when you travel because you're uncomfortable and you're learning, and that's like the best part of it. That's why I think people do it. That's why I like to do it. And when you're going with other people, it just adds in that extra thing to navigate, which is my second one, is if you are going with people, do communicate with all parties all the time. Communication all the time, whether you're uncomfortable, you want to do something, you don't want to do something, whatever it is, speak up and say something, because they won't know otherwise. And then also don't be afraid to do it by yourself. So if you're going with a group or a person and they really, really want to go to this museum, but you're like, I don't like museums, I don't want to do it, communicate, but then also plan for yourself. Like, okay, you guys go do that. I'm actually going to go to this beach or wherever, and I'll meet you after. So just allowing yourself to speak up so that you get what you want to if you're going with someone. But that's also like, don't let fear stop you from doing anything by yourself. Even right now, if you're planning on doing a trip by yourself, don't be afraid of being by yourself. Use it as an opportunity. Sometimes it's better.
Yeah, it's true. Well, you brought up museums. And I literally have go to the museum.
I do. That was an example. Because I know people don't like museums. I love them.
I think if you're going to a new place, like, you should learn about the history of that place.
100%.
And a museum is such a cool way to do that. You don't need to spend 17 hours. I don't know why I picked that much. You don't need to spend that long there.
Yeah.
Like, oftentimes I do the Zoom through the museum, like read a few of the signs or whatever, but it's cool when they have like the audio tour, or like when you can go with a group and there's some guide. Like, some of my best memories in different areas is by going to the museum, because then I really understood why things were the way that they are, like how it came to be, and had a deeper appreciation. Whereas if I would have just like gone to this cool building or like took some pictures, it's a cool memory, but I don't really know why.
Yeah. I love that. Some of my best memories in London were actually going to like, I'm pretty sure I've been to like every single museum in London. I walked like, oh my God, I think it was like 7 miles, just like walking around all day, going to all the museums, because I really wanted to see the Rosetta Stone. And then that just like snowballed. But I love museums, and I love your point of like being able to learn where it is you're going to. And a museum is like the easiest place to do that. And you can meet people.
Yeah. The tours that
like
they
guided
offer
tours,
are pretty cool. a lot of them, or they do like even if it's not a museum, like when I was in Colombia, they did like a graffiti tour where you like go around and like saw all the different like street art, but they explain like how this artist came to like what this meant. And it was just really cool. It was a unique experience that I have a much greater appreciation now for just like street art in general, because I kind of understand that history.
That's awesome.
So I feel like there's so many cool tours like that you should take advantage of if you can.
My third one is do spend time learning where you're going. So even if you're going to like English speaking countries, I think no matter where you're going, Canada too, it's important just to like learn a little bit about it, like what the customs are, what language they speak, what the tip light is like, because tips in other countries are not like what it is in America. And like not that it can be like disrespectful. I think a lot of people are empathetic, especially once they hear your American voice. They're like, oh, honey, it's okay. I'm just like, oh God. But it takes like 5 seconds to like search up some things. And also when you show up with a little bit of knowledge, the respect becomes so much greater, and people will be more willing to help you because you've taken the time. You're not like an ignorant piece of shit walking around assuming everything is going to just be placed in your lap. You've done a little bit of outside work. If there's a different language, you are trying to learn the other language. Sometimes it's hard for people, but put yourself out there and learn a little bit about where you're going. And I think that'll help so much.
Yeah. I had this, it kind of goes off of your point though, of like, don't let money stop you from being a good person. And the reason I put that is because oftentimes, especially, I don't know if this is in Australia, but in third world countries, at least, like you can negotiate prices on like everything. And I've seen people literally like haggle down to like the lowest low, like less than $1 for something. And it's like, come on.
Yeah.
Like these people are literally, this is their livelihood. And you're so concerned about getting the best deal or the cheapest whatever for some little magnet that you can't pay $1.
Yeah.
Like it would irritate me so much that like people, like, yeah, sometimes they're going to try and rip you off and you want to try and like negotiate a price.
Yeah.
And especially like at that time I had no money.
Yeah.
But I come on, people.
Yeah. That's so interesting because I am not like that. Even I was in Santa Cruz and I got swindled into paying $15 for someone's mixtape. I'm like, I just don't want to say no. And so like especially if I'm in another country and they're like, yeah, that magnet is 15 pounds. I'm like, well, I'm paying 15. I'm not going to say no to you. Like, are you kidding me? So it's interesting. Like I'm sure people do that. I am not that person. I get swindled in my own fucking country. So I'm like, oh, you're selling yourself and I feel bad and I have the cash right here. Like, fuck it. Here you go. Yeah. But that's interesting. Like that people are like haggling down to get, stops them from being like, were they American?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fucking annoying. You're giving us such a bad name. Like, stop.
I mean, I would do it, but like, okay. A lot of times in the like touristy areas where you're buying like souvenirs, they all kind of have the same thing. Yeah. So like someone would be like, oh, this is 30. And the other person would be like, oh, this is 20. And then if the other person, like I liked theirs better, it's a similar, very comparable thing. I'd be like, they're charging me 20. Can I take it for 20 here? And then they'd be like, yeah. Yeah. So it would take a lot more time to buy things because I'm like talking to everyone to figure out what they're trying to sell it for. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not going to keep negotiating down for it to be 5. Yeah. Like, come on. Yeah.
They still have to make a living, but I do think that's a good point though, is be careful when buying souvenirs. Like just especially like younger people, like, are you buying it just to buy it, or is it going to have some like sort of meaning? Because sometimes you can get swindled into buying like things that aren't really necessarily the best. And like when I was in Melbourne, it's like they'd be selling like seashells, and I'm like, we're literally in like a port. Like, why? I don't want to buy the seashell off of you. But I think just like being aware of where you're putting your money if you're going to be buying like souvenirs and stuff.
Yeah, I really tried to buy things that were like, one, I knew the person made it, or like it was going to like clearly someone who really needed it. Like that painting that I have, that was from someone who was like, I mean, maybe they were lying to my face, but they said they were raising money to like go to art school in
I could
something.
see that though. They're good. So
yeah, and they were like on the street and they were their paintings, and I felt like they were being honest. So I was like, I want to support you.
I like that though, like being very just aware of your money as well as being a kind person.
Yeah, kindness goes a long way.
Yeah. Who started it? Your turn,
I think, yeah. So I just keep expanding on yours, but I'll say something.
I know.
This is for living accommodations. When I was in Peru, I lived in like an apartment with a roommate. And the way I found that was because I was working at a school in Peru. So I was able to like talk to someone beforehand, have them help me find a place, which was really helpful. But there are also like Facebook groups. Like if you know that you're going to be in an area for a long time, trying to like make connections before you get there, I think is really helpful, because then when you do, even if you're not like going to stay with that person or something, they can help you meet someone else that they might know or show you around an area, which did happen to me, and that was really helpful. But if you're going to be like bopping around, I would say you should alternate staying in hostels, especially if you're by yourself, because there are just like so many planned activities. There's a lot of ways for you to like be social and meet people, that if you're staying in a hotel, this is more for my time in Latin America because I was by myself. Like, I feel like I would have had an entirely different travel experience, and it would have been a lot. I probably wouldn't have done half the things I did because they just came up out of like having conversations with people in the hostels who wanted to do something, and then we went and did it together. Or like they heard about something and I was like, oh, that sounds cool. Can I join? I was reading my journal, and like my first few days in Lima, I met some guys who had like, I don't even remember where they were from, but they wanted to try surfing. And I really wanted to try surfing. It's my first time out of the country in a place I didn't speak the language fluently. Like I was just like pretty timid, but it was nice that I met them because then we all went together, and that was something I'd wanted to do.
Oh, that's fun.
So that was cool.
Yeah. That's one thing that I regret, or one thing like when I do go travel outside the country again, what I want to do is a hostel. I never did a hostel. I would have loved to do a hostel, but didn't get a chance to. So it's just such an easy, like I remember walking past hostels and just seeing like the groups of people from literally everywhere, all with different accents, speaking different languages, all grouped up outside, like making plans to go. It's like such an easy way to meet people, especially if you're by yourself. And they have like, if you're wanting to be a little bit bougie in a hostel, they have like separate rooms. They have like some do like women's only. You can do one with like a large group and you're with a whole group of people. Like there's a lot of different options. I know specifically in Australia, there were some that had like there are fancy ones too, like fancy, like different ones, kind of like Airbnb sort of things, but like hostel styles. And it's like you get to see a cool place, you get to meet cool people, and like you're in an environment, you know what I mean? It's just, it's such an interesting, like hostels are so interesting in of itself. And so taking time to go do that, it's like a once in a lifetime experience. It's very like a young person. I don't know. It's cool. I'd like to do it. I'm sad that I didn't get a chance to.
It can be very draining. Like, especially when you like, because I was so broke, I would stay in like the 12-person dorm room, which was the cheapest. And like, there's so many people. I could barely sleep because it was so loud. You can like hear people having sex. You're just like hoping that no one's gonna like, I don't know. It can be kind of scary, hoping that no one's gonna like come into your little pod, or like that someone's gonna steal your stuff. Like I would lock everything and like always had my little fanny pack on to make sure. But like, it was cool. That's why I said alternate, because I do think it drained me how often I stayed in hostels to where it was like, you need time by yourself sometimes. Like you need like your own space. Like I would have loved to take a shower that like wasn't a dorm style shower, you know?
Did you camp at all?
I did.
Okay. I recommend that. I think if I'm very much like land oriented. Like I like knowing the land. That was one of my other do's, is like if you are going somewhere new, at least for me, as I'm a walker, I love to walk everywhere. It is such an easy way to get to know the place that you're living. Even here now, like we just walk everywhere, and that's how we know half of the places where we live is because we just walk around the neighborhood. You get to see the people. Like it's such an easy thing that you can do. And it's very like land, like it's grounding. And so I think for camping, that was some of my fondest memories of Australia is like actually camping
there. Yeah, I camped like just a handful of times. Okay, this is a side note.
Love it.
Some of the stuff I did, I'm like, what were you thinking? But when I was in Mexico, at this point, I was like near the end of zero, like to zero in my bank account. And so I took this bus and I was asking around at like the hostels how much they were. And I was just like, I don't know if I can like cop this for a week because I'd wanted to stay another week. So I found this abandoned building.
Stop. I cannot hear any more about this fucking trip you took, dude. Oh my God.
I found this abandoned building and I didn't see anyone.
This is a don't. This is a don't. This is a don't.
And so I was just set up my tent and like they had like an awning like thing outside and it was right on the beach. It was beachfront camping.
Did you carry like weapons? Did you have pepper spray and a knife?
Oh no.
Did you have pepper spray?
No. No, this is a don't because then I was coming back from walking around on the beach in my swimsuit and there was a guy there and he was like, "Do you know who like owns this property? Like, can I stay here?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just found it. I don't like, I think you can stay. I don't know." So then he sets up his camp. And then that evening, like a bunch of people came and they were having like a bonfire. And I was like, I don't know what's happening. And they invited me over and I just was like, I was like, I don't feel like this is a good idea. But I got in my tent and I just didn't sleep the whole night. And I just was like, I had locked from the inside, like the zippers. But I was like, if they wanted to slice my tent open, they could easily do that.
Yeah.
It was just so sketchy. So sketchy. So sometimes, if you don't have enough money, maybe it's worth cutting your trip a little short.
Yeah.
Because that was nothing happened and he was very nice. I just didn't feel like...
You had a feeling.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I did not write that down, but holy shit, that's a good one. Is like, do trust your intuition. Trust your like gut 100% of the time. Even if someone is nice or you're in a situation where like there doesn't look to be, but you're feeling something, like just trust yourself all the time. Not even traveling all the time. Because that's so scary.
There were taxis that like they would stop. And I would have a feeling and I'd be like, no, like,
keep going.
Okay.
Never mind.
It's true. Like I never had anything stolen from me. I never had any like scary situation, but I do think it is because like I really listened to
everything.
My gut.
That's so good. Yeah, that's so true.
Even though I did stupid things, but it was like, I saved myself, I think.
In some instances. I know. I look back at my travel and I'm like, some situations that I were put in, I'm like, whoa, my God. Okay. Well, made me a stronger person.
Yeah. You should talk about what you did in Australia. Because I feel like your time on the farm it's like so unique.
For those that don't know, I don't even know if we can do an episode because it's just like, who does this? But like for a quick like intro of Australia, you can do like a work and holiday visa, and it only lasts a year, but you can get up to 2 years or 3 years. I don't know how many like more you can do. I don't know if they've changed it, but in order to stay another year, you need to do like 88 days of some sort of like government work. So you can like pick fruits and vegetables or like work at a restaurant or do other things. For some fucking reason, I'd gotten like a inn at a station, which is like a really, really, really big farm. Like if you've ever, like, I recommend everybody go to Australia, but it's like one of their main like things is like selling wool and cattle. And so I was on a 1.1 million acre station that was like half for cattle, and they had probably like 2,000 cattle, and then half of it was sheep, and there were probably like 6,000, 7,000 sheep. And we lived in like the middle of the station, and from where we were to get to like the highway to go either north or south, one was all on a dirt road and took about like 45 minutes just to get to the road. If we wanted to go to like the nearest grocery store, or any like kind of little shops, the nearest town is called Kuberpedi. It's like the the opal capital of the world. Cute little town. That was like an hour and 15 minutes. But if we needed to go like take the dogs to the vet for some reason, for instance, if a dog broke its leg and you have to take it to the vet, it took us 5 hours to drive to the vet with a dog with a broken leg in the car. So that was wild. If you're ever interested in that story, there's a few stories, but I found myself in some really interesting, that whole situation. I remember, God, we're going to talk about this forever, but I remember driving up, and it was our first day, and we were going to get there at around like 6 while the light was still out, but it ended up like taking us longer because we didn't realize how fucking far away it was. And they had given us instructions of like, when we see this road signal with like something on the side, like a tire on the side, turn left. So we're like, okay. So we turn left, and it's a dirt road, and we're like, okay, keep going. And we get to our first like gate, like a farming gate. And so I get out of the car, open the gate, drive forward, close the gate. We get to our second gate, and the person that I'm with and I were like, are farmers gonna like come out and shoot us? Like, is this the right spot? And we get to the third gate, and finally, like, we see headlights coming towards us, and we're like, oh my God, he's like, stay in the car, stay in the car. So we're like, okay. And then it was our like manager who we've been talking to, who comes out and said like, yeah, we're on the right road. I thought you guys got lost. You said you were going to be here like 2 hours ago. We're like, yeah, we didn't realize we're in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
But it was just like crazy. And then we got out, and it's like 8 o'clock, and they show us to our house, and like the house, it's not a house. It's like this little abandoned little cottage. And like, there's like, we open the door, like dead moths and spiders. There's like this big of an inch between like the door and the floor. So like there's things scurrying all over the place. And I was just like, okay, this is where we're going to be.
This is your life now.
And I thought it was just going to be for the 88 days. Well, we ended up staying there for a year, and I stayed there for a year and 7 months.
That's
something like
so
that. It was more. I
crazy.
spent more time on the station in Australia than I did when I lived in Melbourne.
Wow.
It's crazy. Anyway, yeah. Trust your gut.
Trust your gut.
That's the main thing. Moving on.
Is it your turn?
I think it is. I was just looking at mine. Oh, I like this one. Give yourself time to adjust. And I think it is kind of like self-explanatory. It makes like, I'm like, when I wrote that, I'm kind of like, duh. But that was such a hard thing for me. And I went to Australia. There's not much of a culture shock there. And still, like, I did need a lot of time to adjust, not only to like the time difference, but just like overall, you are not home. You're not with your people. You're not in your comfort. The grocery stores are all different. Some things are different. Like the amount is different for things. And I mean, I went to Australia, which is very, very similar to America, and like not a lot of differences, but it is just be aware of the fact that it is going to be different. And in my mind, I was like, I'm just going to Australia. Like, what the fuck? It's not going to be a difference. And then I think it really, really hit me because I wasn't prepared and didn't really set myself up for success in that aspect. And so if you can just allow your mind to know that there's going to be an adjustment period, you will be better off. Especially if you're going to like countries that aren't like America or the States.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good point. I think that caught up to me like on my trips, and like in Europe, when the day like after we got there was St. Patty's Day. So it was, we were in Ireland, and it was already like, go, go, go. But I feel like quickly after that, like I got sick, and it's just like your body's like, what are you doing? So I think planning for like, I wish we've gotten there a few days earlier so I could have like adjusted to the time change and like got my bearings and took a second before just diving into all these crazy adventures. But that's a good one,
especially if you're gonna live somewhere.
Yeah
Just to give yourself time. Like, I feel very much the same as like, I do, as much as I want to be like, wake up and start my life and go, like try not to make trying to make it such an easy transition when in fact, like, it is a transition and there is going to be a period of time where you're like, holy shit, I just made this. I'm like living here now. Let me take a second.
Yeah. Kind of opposite, but not exactly. I had said, do you say yes to experiences outside your comfort zone? Like a lot of things that I did that are like some of my best memories or craziest stories are not things that I would say I'm like an expert at, or they're my like typical thing that I would say yes to. But I said yes to pretty much everything. There were some things like hang gliding, I think that's what it's called. I said yes to that and like got so sick. And like I knew my body wouldn't like that, but I still wanted to do it. It's a crazy story, but like there are some things you kind of know you probably won't enjoy.
Yeah, I think that's why I think you went skydiving, because I remember seeing that.
The hang gliding,
and I had thought that you went skydiving. That's why when I asked, like, oh, you've been skydiving before, you're like, no. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, literally I was up for like, I think the whole experience is supposed to be like 45 minutes and I was up for 10 minutes. And I literally told the guy, I was like, we need to get down, because I could just feel myself like, I get so motion sick. And that is very much based on like hot air. So you're finding like these pockets of hot air that were like going to spin you up. So you go higher. And it's just like, I was so ill. I got down and just like laid by the wall until everyone was done.
Your instructor is probably like, what are you doing?
I know. He like got everything ready. You literally like run off the cliff and then just like the air picks you up. Anyway, it's a cool experience, but like I was very miserable. But things like salsa dancing or stuff like that, where it's like I like to shake my ass, but like I don't know how to like rhythmically dance with a person. But I've had a ton of fun doing that, and just a lot of cool experiences. Like it's fun to look back at pictures or my journal and be like, oh my gosh, like I did that. And that's not something I would say I'm like comfortable doing, but it was a good experience.
No, I totally agree with that. Every day on the station was crazy. I feel like I did everything that I would typically like not do. Like go pull a cow out of a dam. I'd be like, no, you could do that. Did go in a helicopter though. That was cool. Even though my dad was like, do not get in that fucking helicopter. And then I sent him a picture and he was really upset. Yeah. He was like, I can't believe you just did that. But I think my dad has being in the military, has a different idea of what a helicopter is. I'm like, no one's here attacking us down. Like, I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
We're just trying to find some cows. Like it's going to be okay.
Do you get motion sick? Or
yeah.
Were you sick in the helicopter?
I wasn't until after. I spent the longest time, but that's because we were up really, like, I was one of the first ones to go throughout that day, and I was up there for about 4 hours, but we were just like, we weren't like, so when in Australia, they use like helicopters and gyros and little planes to because everything's huge, the station's massive, so you have to get like loud choppers to come in to get the cows from out of the like scrub and have them like go out so that you can corral them and move them to where they need to go. And we couldn't find any. So we were just like looking around. He was showing me like tracks and part of the station that I haven't seen before because there's no tracks to get there. So just like looking at old dams and water things, like back in the day, there used to be like a massive lake there and it's gone. So we're looking at that. So it was more of just like flying around looking. But, the person that I was with, when they went up, they only lasted like 2 hours, but and he got sick, but that was because like they were like diving and moving around, and I was like, I'm glad that wasn't me. It sounds like a horrible roller coaster.
Yeah.
But I get car sick, and like the day when we were on the boat after drinking, I was like, I just need to sit down for a second because this is a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do get kind of so that hang gliding thing, I don't think I would do. And I really want to do skydiving, but also I'm like, do I want to do skydiving, or is it just because like I've seen like that's a thing for people to check off? Like how bad do I want to do that?
Yeah.
Don't know.
When like the cliche like bucket list items were a thing. Well, they probably still are, but I like had that on my list, and then I was like, why? I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That does not sound fun.
Strapped to someone you don't know. Like, what about if you vomit or pass out? Like, what about if I'm that person? Yeah. Like, that's so embarrassing.
No, that's a no for me.
My last one that I wrote down, and I'm sure more will come up to me, but specifically for living abroad, so if you're planning on going to go live somewhere for an extended period of time, don't forget to pay attention to your relationships back home. I think, sometimes you don't have Wi-Fi or whatever. I wrote letters. I tried to call people every time that I could. On the station, we hardly had Wi-Fi, and there was a huge time difference. So my family knew on the weekends it was their Sundays and Mondays, and it would be my Saturday and Sunday opposite. Friday and Saturday, my Saturday, Sundays at later in the evening, my early in the day was a time for me to talk to them. And we did it every weekend. That was the way that we communicated. And I felt like I communicated a lot with my family. I do wish I communicated more with my friends at the time. I graduated and then left, and I had all of these people that I cared about so much from college that I wish I would have spent more time engaging in that friendship, even while far away, because it's possible. I think I was just so in my own world and living my own life that I left those relationships to kind of I just didn't, fuel that relationship. And I think it's just it's great for people to go live abroad, but the whole world, wherever you came from, wherever it is, doesn't stop just because you left. And so, it is a chore sometimes to reach out, especially when you're traveling, but it does help you for when you come home and makes an easier transition for when you come home. And I think that's just really good advice to just, if you continue to have this relationship and conversations with family and friends on your really, really good days, they can be there for you on your not so good days when you're traveling, because you're going to have both. So I think that's just one thing that I learned from my trips.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's just that age though too.
It's
because you just get out of college and then you're kind of just what am I doing?
With everything.
With everything.
With everything is a question.
So I feel you are trying to navigate through. It's, yes, I should have talked to my family more. Also, I think we mentioned this on the other episode, Savannah came out. My parents said they were getting divorced. Everything was, I broke up with my 5-year long, relationship. All of that happened while I was in another country. And I just was whatever, I'm gonna go jump off this cliff with this guy on hang gliding. I did avoid a lot of things, which to your point, I came back and had to really rebuild a lot of relationships that I just didn't cultivate while I was gone.
Yeah.
So I do think that is important. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Last, I'll combine it. Do you keep a journal?
Oh, yes. That's such a good point.
Because I have, reading that back last night, so many things I forgot. And, I have a ton of pictures, but there's so much more outside of the pictures that happened. And, things that I learned and conversations that I had. And, it's just so fun to read about that. And I didn't journal every day. It was sometimes I'd go maybe even a couple weeks and have to try and remember everything that had happened. But I'm so glad that I wrote even a few things down that I did outside of the pictures I took, because that's something that you can pass down and tell your kids about if you have kids or whatever. It's just so cool to have that documented. Yeah. Because that's your own journey.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that I kept a journal.
Me too.
And then I said, don't forget to slow down and take care of yourself, which I think goes with some of the points you were saying earlier. But I was so go, wanting to do everything that I possibly could. And I'm I made so many good memories, but I got so exhausted and sometimes really irritable. And there were times when I was depressed. It was hard for me to get out of bed, I think, because I was just so drained. Whereas if I would have slowed down, and it's I'm probably never going to have an experience like that exactly again. But that's not to say I can never go back to those places. I didn't need to do every single thing at the same time. And there's when I was living in Peru, I think I really appreciated the day-to-day living. like going to the market and my little walks around the neighborhood. Like those are some of my favorite memories as I started like backpacking and doing more like different towns every like few days. I think I kind of forgot about the like beauty and simplicity of day-to-day living and was so focused on like the adventure of it all that I really forgot to slow down and like take it in and just be like, oh my gosh, like I'm in Ecuador right now. Look at the sun. Like those little things are so important and just grounding, and I think make the experience a lot better when you do remember them.
That's interesting because I feel like I wish I did more. I think I flew in and it was like so desperate to find to have a life that I was just like apartment job, got the apartment job, work. That on the days where it was time off and I wanted to do something, even if like some of the people that I were with didn't want to do it, I wish I took the opportunity to do those things. And I feel very frustrated, and it's kind of like shifting my perspective now, because now I've learned a lot of what I want to do. But when I came back, I was so frustrated with myself because everybody was like, oh, did you see this? Did you go to Sydney? Did you do this? I went to Australia and I did this and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I didn't even see a fucking koala bear. I say that every time. It irritates the fuck out of me. I'm like, I was in Australia and I didn't see a koala bear? Are you kidding me?
Well, I think there's a balance though. It's not like don't do anything or like only say yes to everything. Like
you do need to find a balance. I think it was just like assuming, goes back to the communication. I did not communicate what my needs were or what I thought, what my envision was when I was like moved there and settled in, and what my expectations were, and they didn't share those. So it was like kind of clashing and not mixing. And I'm a very adventurous person, I think, and I like to do things, but I like to travel and explore and do trails and see things. And sometimes like Australia can be expensive, so a lot of things need to be like planned, but I wanted to do those things and I was fully capable of doing them, like renting a car and doing these things that I wish I took the opportunity to. But I think to your point of taking care of yourself, I found it that within what I could do is to go on my walks and to go sit at the beach. And eventually, like when Luna came into the picture, taking care of her and taking her everywhere that we could go and doing those hikes that even were just around wherever I lived, getting comfortable with the, what are those things called that drive you around? Public transportation. Wow. What the fuck? You're like cars.
I literally, you want to know what word came to mind?
What?
My brain is so weird.
What?
I wanted to say a shish kebab.
No.
I don't even know what that is.
What is a shish?
Is that like a
skewer?
Is that a skewer?
Yeah.
Is that a shish kebab?
Yeah.
Why did that come?
I don't know. I don't think it takes you to places.
No.
I'm thinking of public transportation.
I don't know. That was weird. Anyway. On.
But yeah, it's all a balance of being able to enjoy your time there and do all the things that you want to do, but also take a second and like, you're only one person, enjoy the moments. And even though I feel like I didn't do anything, I can comfortably say that like where I lived in St. Kilda, I knew that place like the back of my hand. I used to walk dogs there, so I would just like walk everywhere all the time. And there would like be like little public markets every Sunday, and we'd do those and get little trinkets and things. And like there are little things within your community that may not be this grand thing that everybody else is doing. But like, I also have become more appreciative of my travels, because even though I didn't see a koala bear, like the things that I did, I've never met anybody who has done the things that I've done. And it's incredible, honestly. And so I think just, I have to remember that. And also, like I had said before, take everything as a learning experience. And if I didn't do those things, I wouldn't know what I would want to do for my next trip or what to look forward to in the future for future trips. Yeah.
I think overall, just like living abroad, even just traveling abroad, like you learn so much. And so even saying these do's and don'ts, it's like, even if someone told me some of these things, I still don't know if I would have listened. Because some of these things you just have to like literally experience to really understand what it means.
Yeah.
Like a lot of this, is really helpful tidbits and things to keep in mind. But a lot of it is just like, go out there and experience
it for yourself.
Like I would recommend living in another country to anyone.
Everybody, yeah.
Even if it's like you did it way longer than I did. I was in Peru for 6 months and that was like so incredible. I'm like so glad that I did that. I really had wanted to study abroad. It just wasn't in the cards for me. But if you think that you don't have the money or the finances, like there are ways. You can get jobs. You can work at the hostel. Like that was one thing that I thought was really cool that people did. Like they would stay a few weeks and like work at the hostel.
Yeah.
And then get all these opportunities of like accommodation and food and then be able to do stuff. And like I taught English and that was an adventure in and of itself of like when I was in Peru, I was working out of school, but when I was traveling around, I was teaching on the computer to kids in China. So it was like another time zone. I would be getting up at like 5 a.m. Oftentimes I would have to like go into the bathroom at the hostel and like sit in the like bathroom stall. And like I would put stuff like on the stall door behind me so it looked like I was like in a room. And then I'm like teaching kids like while I'm in the bathroom. And if someone would need to come in and use the bathroom, I just like mute my mic. Like I got very scrappy, but you can get scrappy if you want to experience certain things. And I probably could have worked more so I wasn't like camping in an abandoned building, but you can figure out a way.
I know. You can literally, like in Australia, I did dog walking. And then actually through dog walking, someone that we're actually still friends on Facebook or on Instagram. Ew, gross. Why do I do that?
You really try and age yourself.
I really do. Like, what the hell? Anyway, I was talking with her about my like frustrations of not finding a job since being in Australia and feeling like I literally just graduated college. Like, why can't I find a job? This is ridiculous. And she was like, well, are you open to working anywhere? And I was like, I'm open to do whatever the fuck that is, allowed. And she actually worked at a cable manufacturing company. And she was like, do you want to work at a print line? I'm like, I don't even know what that is, but sure. And it's literally like, I don't even know, like a warehouse and this like massive machine that's probably like as big as the living room and as long as our house that you just like insert like large cables and like feed it through like a printing line and then re-spool it. And it could be like little cables like this one or like big ass cables that go under the ground. Like the size can vary and you just have to print like the code on it and then re-wrap it up. And it has like you're supposed to do a certain number of days. Like it was the most interesting thing. I had a video because I was so like I had someone take a video of me doing it and I wish I could find that fucking video because it would be so cool to still like to show what I did. But I'm like, what the hell? Like that's so cool that I did that. Like I worked on a print line. That's crazy. And then I worked on a station. It's like jobs are available, wild. Especially when you're young. Just go out there and do it and work hard and earn the money and then reward yourself by doing these little trips. Like things like teaching. You can do that teaching what is it? The TEFL or whatever. You could do that like
literally anywhere.
Literally anywhere.
When I got it, I worked at a community college in North Carolina, like to get my like teaching credentials because you have to do like 40 hours or something.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. Like, it just also gave me such an appreciation, especially for, like, immigrants and people that come to this country that, like, are working all day. Then they go to the school in the evening to try and learn another language. Like, I just have so much, like, love and respect for those people that do that because that's, like, so...
They're fucking hard workers.
Incredible to me. So it's cool because you can even do that in the States. Like, if you get that certification.
Yeah, exactly. Go out there. I think the one thing though, any advice to follow, even if you're young, even if you're not going to take any of this advice that we said, like to wrap it up is like trust your gut. I think that is the most important thing. Your intuition, your like gut will tell you what you need to do. And also sometimes like, who am I to tell you what's safe and what's not safe? Like we were both in crazy situations and it made us who we are and taught us a lot and made us strong and gave us stories to talk about. And I want you guys to have that option too, and the only way to do it is to just go out there.
Just do it. So this is your year, 2023. Go travel. Love yourself. We love you.
We love you.
Thanks for listening to Polite as Fuck.
Always. Love you guys.
See you next week.